So that's just my,
Right, but we don't know
I didn't.
we don't know who he is until the very, very end.
No, yeah, I get that, but there's still something in the way of um, how people are dealing with the aftermath of this family causing the apocalypse, right? All right, everybody, welcome to episode 34. Jake and I are making a comic book. It's called Turbo Pit Fighter. If you don't know already by now, this is the first video you're coming upon us. Stay with us all the way to the end. Listening and watching. We really do have a commitment to making our own comic our own way. And we have years of experience behind us, not only comic centric, but for production. And the reason we've put this podcast together is to keep Jake and I on track. In other words, we meet every Sunday via this Riverside podcasting for an hour. I ink pages, Jake does penciling. He's got story layout as well. But we still have it
Yep.
every week. We're making something, and we're an hour early today too. So we're really trying to get onto it. But both of us have confessions, which are we did not do our homework. In other words, in episode 33, we had um, some hopes and desires to get ahead a little bit, and it didn't happen. So we're here though. We're here today, and we're getting into it. So because I wanted to get this done, which is page 18 of issue number 1. And Jake had some good old fashioned layouts for issue 2, pages was it 29? No, 30, 31, and 32. But other than that, we still keep busy through the week. We're still in touch with the art world. So, how's it going, Jake?
Well, good, Kurt. Your mind is is a steel trap, man. Because
Hmm.
I pretty much forgot everything, and I just that's why we have this time set aside so we can really come back in and figure out where we're at and go to the next stage. I'm working on this panel here that I've been working on probably for like 2 episodes because it's gone so slow, and so it's pretty much done now. This is where Turbo, and so this is a complicated drawing here. The Turbo's throwing this guy out of a van after she stuffed his head into the fire to douse some of the flames, and then she's throwing him into two motorcycle guys and knocking them asunder. So it's like one time I was hanging out with my daughter and her friends, and I don't know, they must have been like 14 years old or something. And my daughter said, "Oh, my dad can draw you a picture if you want, and he can draw anything." And so so the girl yeah, I had my pencil in my hand, and the girl just like looked at me. She goes, "Okay, can you draw 1,000 horses coming over a mountain?" And I was like, "Are you being sarcastic? Are you?" I know I can't draw that.
She is
All right, so
14. She is 14. So she's
well,
there
yeah,
to,
and
to
now
test.
right, and now the kid just graduated, I think, Cornell, and she's getting a job with Goldman Sachs. So
Okay.
there you go.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, this is done, and I'm going on to the next page, which means yeah, I'm literally ripping this page out, and this means I'm going on to the next story page. So we're gonna and something else that's tricky now. I'm gonna have to cross out this 9 and put 10. And then the next story page, if you can see this here, is going to be 11 because everything is getting bumped up one. Remember, ever since the beginning of our podcast, we were deciding if we were going to have some pages out of sequence
Yeah.
because my first page for issue 2 kind of doesn't start on anything too visually exciting. It just like kind of jumps into the story, and I'll show you what I mean. Um, if this is in order, yeah, and it is. Yeah, so this was page 2. Now page 3. Wait. Oh, issue 2. What did I just do? Stupid me. All right, issue 2, page 2. So, it just starts at this checkpoint, and then sure, like everything blows up and everything. So, it's kind of exciting, but there's a lot of like you know, text here, dialogue, to try to explain to the reader what's happening in the story. So we're going to kick all this stuff over. So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and so on. But here's why. Because this page, which is just in rough format here, is going to be a montage. And this is kind of like an ode to some of my favorite comics, the Master of Kung Fu creative team. You had Doug Mensch and Paul Gulacy, and uh, all the Master of Kung Fu comics had a great montage for page 1, just like it was kind of like a cinematic poster,
Yeah.
and it showed all the characters, and it showed like these poses, and it was a good place to put some I guess dialogue and information too. But I'm doing that here a little more utilitarian. I want to have a big picture of Turbo here with bloody fists, and then I want to show the orphanage burning here with the cross and everything, and then I want to have young Turbo, so it'll have title graphics here, Turbo Pit Fighter. I've gotten used to the smell of blood, and then it's going to show young Turbo kind of melting into old Turbo melting into young Turbo, and going over kind of like a little bit of her origin story from issue 1, where we see that she's traumatized and everything, and then it'll explain that then when you turn the page, we'll have page 2 and that big explosion and everything, and it explains that she's in the orphanage now. And so I tried to do this just for clarity's sake, to bring us back into the story, for maybe somebody's picking this up and they didn't read issue 1, or maybe they did and they forgot, or whatever. But so we're gonna have a montage during page for page 1, and then that's gonna leave us, because we have absolutely positively no ads. We're gonna have 32 pages just rip through the story, and it's going to be like such a solid comic, of just content. So the very end, we're reserving the part here for the Unbeknownst One to make himself known and make his evil ways known. We've plotted out here so that the Turbo part of this issue is going to end where they've picked up Mr. Ike, and they're getting a lot of repairs done, and they're getting a little bit of rest and relaxation. They're in this like remember we had conceived of this like this big cave where all these mechanics come, and they have like this big fix-it shop.
It was
And
a Pep Boys, right? Because we could probably we can get some sponsorship there if we reach out to somebody.
right, but
Even in the apocalyptic future, Pep Boys will be in business.
yeah, well, and we were going to, because there was a little bit of downtime with no fighting. I think we have like, they're just kind of escaping these explosions and these pursuits scenes. But yeah, so there'll be like 2 pages here of downtime, and so we'll get a little bit into Trophy Girl's feelings, and then we're also going to set up the how Turbo becomes aware of the Big Deal Nationals, and then they set out on the Big Deal Nationals just in time because they were getting threatened by some unsavories. So there's always going to be like a little bit of tension, even during their downtime. But that all concludes on page 28. It's going to be like, they're hitting the trail, they're hitting the road. And then we have 29, 30, 31, and 32. But I figured we have to have like at least 1 page for stuff like, either ads or promos or letters or notes or whatever. just so we can get that mailing rate, right? The media mail.
Media mail, right? Yeah.
But pages 29, 30, and 31 will be can be the unbeknownst story, and because this is all shifted now because of the montage page. So this is actually page 30 now. All this is going to shift, and I probably have to put a different color on this, but so we could have if we don't do that note page thing at all, we could have 32 pages and 3 pages of Unbeknownst One's shenanigans. So what happens in that sequence? Well, I was going to lay that out here on a rough page, and what I wanted to lay out was this is going to be at the very end, and it's going to be just kind of like, and now for something completely different.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking of, since we have Turbo's van driving off into the distance, we could start with maybe an establishing shot here, like a horizontal panel of another van coming over the horizon, right? That's also traveling to the Big Deal Nationals, right? And they can like maybe have some spare tires here and some antennas, and they could be like a weird vehicle, maybe like extra wide, and I'm thinking of that Star Wars thing with all the Jawas. Remember, that was a pretty
Yeah.
big vehicle.
Big. Yeah.
So they're coming over the horizon, also going to the Big Deal Nationals, and um, they come upon the I guess troop, or the band of brigands. Um, I don't know. They're here. Maybe they'll say something like, "This sure is a lonely highway." I was thinking about making these like Mexicans too, um, like maybe some
Oh, didn't
ethnicity,
we? I mean, the
almost too close.
wrestling element. So would these fellas kind of have that Lucha Libre kind of
Right.
feel? Like, did we talk about that already? Might have been
Yeah, I think
episodes ago. We kind of went on a riff about how exciting for the both of us wrestling is. So that would be
yeah,
super cool.
it rings a bell. But would they have the wrestling masks on if they were
That'll be the
just
tricky
driving?
part. Yeah, it's the tricky part. Now, because the
So
unbeknownst one, you have him in a crazy leather face Rastafarian kind of mask. But this doesn't mean that here's another element that I've interjected is the detail in the whole appearing at one of these pit fights and you being a up and coming rising star in the game, so you're starting to get a little bit of you know chat about who you are and how you are, um, but it, or we would maybe even have to kind of come up with our own variation of the where it'd be less about the like a stocking mask and more like a hockey mask kind of thing, but it still would have like like Mexican Latin iconography on the mask. Just freewheeling there.
yeah, yeah, and freewheeling here too. So I have a little cast of characters here. So this is going to be the Mexican Lucha Libre guy. He's going to be really strong, and he might even be a glower.
Oh,
Um, yeah, he's going to be really powerful and everything. And I think I have him like eating peanuts or something here. And,
nice.
you know, because, right, they're just like, minding their beeswax. I'm going to have a female here. It's kind of like a sultry, um, girlfriend or something, with a big tank top that says team whatever. And then we got to come up with a team name. And then we'll have a driver here who will have thin features just to kind of offset, this real chunky guy here who's got his feet up, and he's just, and his wrestler mask is like up. So it's like near but off, because I guess this is semi relaxed, right? Here, I'll give him some facial hair. So they're talking about this is a lonely highway, almost too quiet. We are going to like kind of, I guess, make this a little more ethnic, maybe even Spanish. Can we translate from Spanish?
Google Translate, I use it very often. It's very good.
Yeah, but then what do we do about the reader,
You have a glossary, Spanish
right?
dictionary, or you do the asterisk where then at the bottom of the page it'll have a you know what they said. Didn't they do that with some like I remember Marvel comics like in the X-Men they had like somebody didn't speak like aliens I think it was.
Right? And they just use symbols or something?
Yeah, some sort of like gibberish. Looked like language, but it was gibberish. But then they would asterisk it or they would have something at the bottom.
Right. Okay. So now they're going to get accosted here, and I guess they could come to either a roadblock or maybe the windshield just gets shattered, or what do you think? Uh,
These are the brigands that are just going to basically
yeah.
have them for lunch, right?
Oh, I got it. So let's do um here. Let's do all of a sudden like a mace ball just comes in and just shatters their
Nice,
reality,
nice.
and right then this could lead us into like a popping panel here, and we'll see the uh the unbeknownst one who's like sitting up high on a perch, and maybe we can give him like some real bizarro like a vehicle like there's like a big uh ATV looking thing, or
I
but
was thinking the same thing.
where he's like up elevated above everybody else, and then all of his minions here, and so here these guys will be gawking out of the side of the truck, and they'll be, oh, we're in trouble here, and they see like they're vastly outnumbered, and so the unbeknownst one will make his, I guess, appearance here, and then we have 2 pages, and we want to do something where the cruelty is the point, right? Uh,
Is he gonna like humiliate him? Humiliate them? Like literally throw down and be like, "Oh, look who it is," because he knows who everybody is, right? The
yeah,
unbeknownst
well,
one, right? He's got enough minions out there to give him heads up.
here, how about we, the Lucha Libre guy will come out and he will look formidable for a second, um, you know, but sh so he comes out to try to defend, he put his I guess he'll put his mask on, and you know, he'll be really ripped, um, and he'll say, something like, "You want a piece of me?" type thing,
Well, he knows
and
who unbeknownst one is, right?
no,
No.
no.
So
Oh,
unbeknownst one is just emerging out of nowhere to then just rise to the top. So he has no prior bouts in the arenas.
dude, the unbeknownst one is unbeknownst.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Maybe we should, maybe, do they recognize it? I mean, they could say like, brigands, or they could say, you know, um, scavengers or whatever,
Trash.
right? Yeah, no, like, or street,
Roadkill.
yeah, street, thugs or something like that. But, should he be instantly recognizable as the unbeknownst one? I mean, because his secret identity, which is revealed at the very climactic ending, is that he's the son or the grandson of you know the the ruling class family that caused all the problems in the first place, right? Remember,
But
we're
my
gonna.
question still stands, has he fought in the arenas yet, like in pit fights? Are we establishing him right here and now that this cat wants to go from the bottom and reach the top by the time he gets to issue 5?
Oh, so yeah, that's a good point. Well, there. How about there? they're fighting their way up. They're all fighting their way up to the Big Deal Nationals. Maybe like the Big Deal Nationals hasn't happened in like 10 years. And so these are all regional fighters that have had some fights. But I don't know if the communications are such that everybody hears about what's going on in other places,
Well, there's
you
always
know?
word of mouth.
Right.
You gotta kind of think back to Roman gladiatorial games because like Gladiator with Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe. When he gets sold into the gladiatorial games, he's like all the way out in Arabia, in the smallest arena there is, and that's where
Uh-huh.
he's being trained. But um, there's still attendance, so and they're merchants, so they might be there for that day, and then the next day they get on um, their boat and head to Rome and or wherever. But they'd be like, "Yo, man, we were just in Egypt, and man, there's this like crazy guy they're touting as the Roman or blah 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 blah." So, and then of course it ends up, you end up getting a reputation way bigger
Yeah.
than can be expected.
Okay, so let's have this chica here, and she's heard of him. I know who that is. That's the
Yeah.
Unbeknownst One. Uh, and maybe we could say where he's from, the capital city, but I don't want to call it the capital city, from and then I'll just put it here in brackets, the ruling area city.
Okay.
Um, and so he was like a regional up and comer, and he'll have this whacked out vehicle. So for folks watching, right? We're laying out the story. I just want you to think about, right, like this right here, right? This was Jack Kirby and Stan Lee laying out X-Men #1, right? Which looked like this. And what we're doing right now is like we're doing on the fly kind of like world building, and we're like, we have to make a story, but we have to think about forwards and backwards, right? And I just want you guys to appreciate, what they built for the X-Men, right? In a rush. I think it was 64. And, I complained that, the backgrounds are very sparse here, right? There's just like the foreground action. There's like nothing in the back hardly. That's because these guys were like doing 3 books a month. Jack Kirby was penciling 3 books a month. It isn't because they didn't want to. They had plenty of that stuff in Fantastic Four, which was their bestseller. But what they were also doing at the same time was bringing on this whole other franchise and this whole other world, this whole other set of characters, and these great concepts, right? Oh my God, a house for gifted youngsters, Professor X, the Cyclops, all this stuff, right? Magneto, right here. Magneto was around ever since issue 1. So now what we're doing, right, is right, comparing to all that, what we're doing is, this is important because this is going to be our main bad guy, for our graphic novel, and there's going to be lots of climactic stuff with him going on. So we have to think carefully about where he comes from, what he does, how does he talk, right? And we have to do that. We have to like establish that right now, right? Like I want him to say, like, do he says things like "nice van," or does he talk like a lot more formal? Like thy, possessions be mine or something. Like I don't know. We have to decide right here, right now. This isn't like a fan just like, wow, Stan Lee is so smart, man. I can't believe they came up with all this stuff. We're on the spot. We have to do it. So, sometimes we just kind of like hold things in abeyance, right? Like, this is why we're working on a rough here with just like, a piece of notepad paper instead of like good, expensive paper. Um, but, like where do his minions come from, right? Are they like a rogue military force that broke away? like a special kind of like SS force, or are they just ragtag hate breeders, that are
Frat
following his?
boys.
Right. Um, right. So, I'll put that in like frat boys, right? Like, they'll probably be like yeah, you know what? We'll call them the blah 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 fraternity. How about that?
Yeah. Well, there you
And
go.
like this is how like we just bounce off each other's, right? So he comes from the RM, the regime militant, right? And I remember we did I have a suggestion for the name of the family? Oh, I did. I sent you all those
I
names, remember?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
have mine. I have mine written up here on the left. I have two of them for
right.
names. Now,
Right, but I was making them like all these fancy names like Worthington and and
not
stuff, right?
me. Well, no, well, that's what I had suggested a couple videos back because I had offered Dunwaller,
Right.
or Dunweller,
Dunwall.
Dunwaller or
Right.
something. But you were like,
Which
and,
I
and,
said,
and that's because we watch all these good old-fashioned British detective shows, my wife and I. But yeah, because mine are Nexfar, Nexfar,
uh-huh.
and then the other one is Everfent, Ever. Do you catch it? Fent. You catch the
Yeah,
now?
but those sounds like pharmaceuticals
Well,
though.
that's what I was going for. That's exactly what I was going for because I was thinking. And I told my wife this, and she really liked Everfent because of the fentanyl epidemic. And when you know how much money is being made on the deaths of
Yeah, well then
countless people.
why don't you just reference the Sacklers then if that's the case, right?
Well, I'm just trying to think of something comic booky in a way that keeps keeps the flow. But as a world, I'm assuming, well, I'm projecting my own sense of name being inherently anchoring as the story keeps progressing. So when somebody says, Everfent or Nexfar in whatever kind of conversation, and it can kind of lean towards Unbeknownst One, where even he can get a little like off kilter because just the name itself drives people a bit edgy or angered or so on and so forth. So that's just my
Right, but we don't know
I didn't.
we don't know who he is until the very, very end.
No, yeah, I get that, but there's still something in the way of how people are dealing with the aftermath of this family causing the apocalypse, right?
Yeah, but this is at least two generations later.
Yeah, but it's still a generational family thing. Like that
Sure.
they're still towing that line. I mean, they're not existing anymore, right? They're still existing.
Well, yeah, I mean the fact, well, so that's the thing, like that we have to really work out the details of. There's
Uh,
there's gonna there's gonna be, you know, when young Turbo is there and there's a resistance and the orphanage, the the RM fighters have broken away from the
right,
ruling family,
right,
and the ruling
right.
family then is controlling everything using sky drones and technology and
Mm,
and infrastructure. But they've kind of lost the streets, and there's a lot of like surviving people that are fending for themselves, and then there's the RM, and so there's these three kind of things that are all in tension with each other. Um, and and Turbo is part of the resistance. As she gets older, she will be going underground. First, they're going to live in the trees. Then they poison the skies, and they go underground and they build these complexes underground. Young people, and then Turbo gets built, and then at some point the pit fights emerge as kind of like this culturally unifying thing that get to be bigger than anything, and it's like the whole totality of the world becomes that these pit fights are places where there's spectacles, but there's also, a sense of order to it, because in order to win these big prizes, these fighters step forward and they have all their followings and contingencies and stuff. And it just, it's just a thing. So we have to figure out, generationally, what happens to the RM. The RM will probably scatter because it becomes a lawless land with just all kinds of different territories. And then what happens to the ruling family? Are they gone? Did they disappear? Are they in exile? So the Unbeknownst One, unbeknownst to everybody, is a major pit fighter, a major competitor in this new cultural schism, and nobody knows that he's part of the ruling family, and he's really powerful, and he's a glower and all that. But you know, we don't know that till the very end, that it turns out, to be him. He came up, through his own pit fighting, but at the same time, this is what this scene is establishing right here. He's also doing all this extra, stuff with, robbing people, killing people, destroying people everywhere he goes, and having the cruelty be the point, having, just like really sadistic kind of torturous stuff, because he gets off on it.
Yeah.
And I think I took some notes about that somewhere, how that would manifest. But yeah, because I have a lot of just like random notes everywhere, but I took it down somewhere. Oh, here. National pit fights. The winner is the RM Prince. I wrote Prince, but he's just the grandson. Um, the Unbeknownst One. There's protests from the stands. He kept us down, murderer, criminal. He feeds on hate, right? Uh, it makes him strong. The anger is palpable, yet none will step forward to stop him. And then, so this is kind of like the climactic ending. Oh, it says last issue, right? Trophy girl stabbed, grabbed by the face. Half of them cheer. Groans. Turbo stands up fight. Right. So this is the very, very end, where Trophy is going to seduce somebody to get the one remaining gun. That last gun, whatever we're going to call that gun, that is developed by Elevena. And there's like one left, and this famous guy has it, so Trophy seduces him at the very end because that's her one power, is attractiveness. And then she's going to shoot the Unbeknownst One and to save Turbo's life. Look, I'm writing up the thing here. It sounds like they're singing the old national song from before, right? So the crowd will get together and they'll start singing the old national song from the early days. So yeah, you're right. There are like vestiges of remembering everything, and and we need to turn these into not just like details, but like cultural memes,
Yeah.
and things that are just part of the story. But we have to show that, right? Not just once, but repetitively, in order to build this out and to make it super clear. So this is a little bit of our ADD workflow here. I got one page where I'm doing pencils. I'm moving on to the next page. We're in the middle of this battle scene. We're trying to think ahead, not just the notes here for the very, very last issue, but also finishing up this issue. And come on, man, we did it. We got a page here, right? And moving on to the next page, we're going to see this Lucha Libre guy, busting out of the van, and he's going to give, some of these guys a run for their money. There'll be a guy here that's holding the mace, that just crashed the windshield, and so he could at least take that guy out, right?
Yeah.
And he'll give him a good wallop, but that's, I guess, his only moment in the sun. And then the Unbeknownst One starts. I mean, we only have 3 pages, so this guy's gonna meet his end on this page, right? and then the van is just overrun, which is complicated to draw. But
Have
how does the
you
how
can I
is the
just
un
interject? Yeah,
yeah
but I'm getting like flashbacks from like into Fist of the North Star. Did you ever read Fist of the North Star or see the anime?
no, that's a
I'm thinking
manga?
about getting the first. Yeah, I'm thinking about getting the first collection of that. He's a Bruce Lee looking guy, and there's a lot of powers, if you will. It's total desert lands and everything like that. Now, I cannot remember any details at this point. So if you're listening to this,
Uh-huh.
please um, be kind in the comments and just help us move along with it. But I'm remembering chunky stuff that you're kind of towing along, like you're not. And when I mean by chunky, it's not even that big a deal as of yet. But there are these like pieces of information that's getting placed out one piece at a time. And to just recap, because we are getting towards the end here, and I don't want to lose this, is that um, the last part of issue 2 is to really establish that there's somebody bigger and badder than Turbo coming her way, and
Yeah.
this is to be the uh, um, the violent scene to get everybody to become aware of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just keep thinking along the lines of like how to kind of just put a chunk or two. I don't think we need the family names and stuff, but I think he needs the Unbeknownst One needs some element of reputation. That's all it is. And if it's just in the way that he finishes people by making some cool biblical saying, like in uh, Pulp Fiction, whatever, um, you know, uh, the- that would be enough, in my opinion, to establish him as a you know filthy bastard.
Right. Okay. So well, I we don't have a lot of space, for like a drawn out
Yeah,
scene. I think Unbeknownst One is just basically just gonna rip the Lucha Libre guy's skull apart.
right, right.
Okay, and because that's like so direct, like, right, and you're
Yeah,
just like, you know,
with the palm of his hand,
with both of his hands, yeah.
not just like the palm of his hand. Like gripping a basketball with one palm and then just.
Two palms, yeah. Two palms, and he just
Okay.
separates it,
So he's
right?
not he's not he's not super huge per se.
Um, well, he's big,
Either one of
yeah,
these guys.
yeah. He's the biggest guy around for sure.
All right. So there is an unnatural element of size.
Yeah, and yeah. So this will kind of be gory here. Um, here at the bottom of this page, and the Unbeknownst One will have this strength and this also like cruelty here, and right. So then what's going to happen. Oh yeah, or maybe this should be right. I think what we're gonna have here, right? So now I'm thinking the better of it. I want to move this. All right, so let's just get rid of this whole page. So this guy, this guy will have his moment in the sun, right? He'll come out of the van, and he'll just take out one guy, but we'll make this a little shorter, and um, then the Unbeknownst One will engage him, and they will, have like this kind of like Thing versus Hulk moment right here,
Okay, cool.
or not here, right? So, where they get into it, but then very very soon after, yeah. So here they're like opposing forces, right? And then so here in between here, we'll see the Unbeknownst One will like get down off his high ATV thing, right? And what we need to come up with like right before I start penciling these last pages is how does he speak? What is his mannerisms going to be? And the easy, the real easy thing to do is just plug him into some existing character that we use for inspiration, and then we change it enough so that it's not plagiarism, but we just like a shorthand, for why he's doing that. And, and this happens all around the creative process, movies, TV, everything. Well, you hear about like Shazam, and they're like, well, they patterned him after Fred McMurray because he was the famous actor at the time, and that's why he looks like
Right.
that with the eyebrows and stuff.
Right.
Um,
Well, I mean, do you want him to have like an accent, like he's from like Australia, or
right,
like
because the problem
he'll
there is
use
that,
man like like oi and mate and that type of
well, it depends what the ruling class had, because, the rulers had.
maybe
And
he's got a southern
right, and I like the Everfent and Nexfar for something. I like the ring of them together actually,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then the made up thing and the fact that they're like pharmaceutical names on purpose. But Dunweller sounds too British to me, and so
Mhm.
I came up with like DeHuberts or DeHubertson or something, right? And his name is like Cuthbert, DeHubertson, like the most embarrassing name ever. That um once they reveal, his real name, like it's like a constant embarrassment. Like, people that hate their real first name, like me. um, so I don't know. That's just the working word that I'm going with. But I wanted to put in Hubert, and then all the other, names of his family too, were all based on like um first names of ex-presidents, just to show that they were,
Mm.
presidential, and they were in leadership and stuff. But at the same time, I wanted it to be like, not common. Like, I've never heard of D Hubert. I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe I'll Siri it. Um, but but also the first names, because whatever I emailed you, I put a little bit of thought into like the grandma and the grandpa, and they were all like names of first ladies that were kind of bastardized. Um, so So I'm thinking about that, but the immediate question is, how does he speak, right? Is it like, is going to be any interesting novel way of speaking as he's doing, his cruelty? Should we have him talk like Trent Reznor lyrics or something, or should we, like, yeah, I just want it to be like real, like dark, and kind of like not demonic, but just like S&M ish, I think, you know.
Well, then we have to get into like uh, like Aleister Crowley type business, where it's not religious, it's theosophy. The Golden Dawn. I don't know if you know anything about
Right,
those
he will have,
texts,
yeah,
where
he will have a philosophy.
you can end up speaking in tongues or spells, you know what I mean, like incantations.
Well, the thing about the Unbeknownst One for sure is that he thrives on hate, and it really makes his nostrils flare and his veins bulge and everything. Um, and then we might even, in a roundabout way, have the hate breeders maybe inspired by his exploits, even though they're like, separate regions and everything. Um, just because the hate breeders are, also thrive on, they're also motivated by hate, right? And that could be like just hate of anybody, but it's supposed to be a commentary on, today's neo-Nazi movement, and and all the
Yeah, it's so cliche though. I mean, then you might as well just have 'em Nazis or something, I mean, just have them with a German accent or something. something to that extent. Like evil has so many classifications in pop culture that it's just very easy and quick to get into. Um,
Right.
I'm not trying to persuade us either way. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna do it, then just lean all the way into something, especially if it's going to have its references to neo-Nazis and blah, 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 you know.
Yeah,
Which
I
then,
mean,
unfortunately, I think people will then carry their own luggage with them, um, and be like,
right,
oh, well, this is what it is, you know.
but thinking ahead, right? So like we're not thinking like back to World War II or even to today's neo-Nazi. We're thinking ahead, generations and generations after, lots of different Holocausts, right? I mean, the reason why Nazism is so cliche is because it's the biggest thing that's happened in our known modern
Well, in the
history.
last
So
100 years, yeah. I mean, it's definitely the most horrific thing that has been bestowed upon humanity by one single group. But you can even get back to there's some really great stuff about Alexander the Great, and his one guy described it in this documentary that by the time he reaches like Asia, like Khyber Pass,
right,
his guys have taken he's not only he's not only conquered all these cultures, but he's dragging people with them. And so now they've gone from these Greek armor, what little armor that Greeks were using, into all this other ethnic levels. And then there was even issue with the chain of commands because he was carrying people with him from other cultures that he had to trust in the translation. So it could be interesting going back to the Lucha Libre kind of thing that maybe he speaks a foreign language that we would just put in there, but maybe he has a sidekick that is basically helping is misinformed enough that he's telling basically a different version of what's being said. That's going
yeah,
back from that's also going back to Road Warrior,
yeah. I
where
mean,
the
if
guy, the Lord Humongous, the Ayatollah of rock and roller, and he's just there to, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, the fact that they're on vehicles and they have masks and stuff, and they
right,
have
right.
weapons. Yeah, definitely. Humongous is definitely in there. But when we're talking about like mining history, I think of like Caligula because, we've heard the legends about how cruel he was. And then you could also, get into, Vlad the Impaler too, right?
Sure,
I
sure.
mean, the mythology, this is just what we've heard, but yeah, we want to maybe do, elements of all that. And,
I
and
just think it would be interesting, and I think we need to start wrapping it up because we're after the 45-minute part marker. But it would be interesting, and this is what I'm leaving with. If he's so, let's say, aristocratic intelligent, and he's speaking a foreign language, he's speaking German, whatever. We translate very basic things like, look, you guys are beneath me. I'm just going to rip your head off. But his sidekick is like, you guys are the devil's spawn. You need to be reaped and put back into the earth. But that earth is going to be, and he gets off into this other level. So if a German reader actually reads the comic book, or somebody who has German as a second language, they're like, no, this guy's pretty like flat and boring. But he carries around um, all these other individuals that just latch themselves to him for survival mechanisms. And this guy just so happens to be the mouthpiece of just how terrible he is.
right. So you mean like a hype man? He's got a hype man,
Yeah, he
or the
just
whole.
talks all the time. There'll be just word balloons of him under, in the, when you do like a smaller point size for
Yeah.
somebody who's just talking in the background. But
Yeah.
he's just like, dude, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna have it like this, and then this is like, right,
Well,
boys,
I like
and
that.
he's just speaking in German, where he's like, now we're moving forward, and this is what's got to happen, or I'm just gonna start cutting people's heads off. I mean, he just has a very calm and collected, but in a foreign language. He doesn't even care that nobody understands it. He just speaks.
Well, I like the hype man idea with the smaller text because that allows us to explain things kind of in the way the announcer was in the beginning. Um, but I don't see German. He's
No,
from the
I'm just
ruling.
saying it doesn't have to be German. I'm just leaning off of the
Right.
Lucha Libre, is that there's an automatic assumption that everybody speaks English. That's just the thing. And obviously it's because the majority of people will be English speaking people that will read the comics. So to be able to interject a foreign language will be a little upsetting, maybe confusing, but it might
No, I
be
know.
something that we could take on as a challenge.
I like the thing that we just make people do Google Translate if they really want to, and then if they do, they'll be they'll be
Yeah,
shocked and surprised,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Right. So that's like an Easter egg.
yeah. Maybe it should be Chinese.
Well, I can't do those
Because you can
characters.
actually, when you do Google Translate, you can actually get the characters too. You can get the kanji.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I love that. I love that as a cute little thing to put in.
Right,
So
right.
so the reader won't understand from what they're saying,
Yeah.
but they might understand from what the hype man is explaining. We'll get the meaning.
Who's
Um,
always explaining. He's just
context.
expounding constantly about how great and horrible and terrible. And do you remember when we were down in Austin and we blah, 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 we took that. And you're just like,
Right.
what the hell? Does this
Context.
guy ever shut up?
A lot of context clues, and that's also kind of what Gopher serves when we're in the van. He's
Right.
doing a lot of robotic explanations
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
always good to have characters like that.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. This
so
is awesome.
I have this page worked out. This is gonna be a big splash showing the Unbeknownst One for the first time ever.
Move it to
And
the
folks,
move just to the left so we get the whole shot of that
oh
page.
yeah,
We
and
can't
so
see the
then
whole thing.
yeah,
Nice, nice,
then we get into
nice, nice,
well,
nice.
this is just a rough sketch, and then we get
Sure,
into
sure.
a battle scene here, which I haven't
Yeah.
really worked out all the pacing yet, but it's going to be, pretty grandiose, and we are going to have kill, hate, kill, right, kill the
Right.
infidels,
Right.
right, kill
Right.
the devils, kill the non-believers, um, right. So this we'll reserve that. Then by the top of this page, and I'm sorry I didn't move this over, but I want to have a panel here of the chica. She's loading. She's very nervously loading an arrow into a crossbow, and she doesn't look like she's very facile with it, right?
Right.
She's like shaking and everything. And then here, Lucha Libre guy is already getting defeated, and then here he's already gonna have like his skull split apart, and so and this will be like a real kind of thing that I guess deviant 14-year-olds will posterize.
Dig. Cool.
But yeah,
Hey,
then we,
look, I'm seeing a little glitchy in your camera here, so I'm a little concerned that maybe
oh yeah, I
we're
just got a
losing your visual. Yeah, your visual
no, I
feed.
just
Okay,
I,
no, you're good.
yeah, I just had my battery warning, which is a reminder to plug
Oh,
it
you got to
in.
plug in.
Plug it in,
Well,
plug
we
it in.
gotta we gotta call it. We gotta call it because we want to keep these bite size around 45 minutes. We made really good. This is going to be titled World Building Part One, and we might even get up to like Part 62 or something like that. But yeah, no, this is super. This is super accomplishing. In an hour, less than an hour, we were able to get a lot going, and we'll just keep moving. Next week. And of course, if you made it this far, we call you a turbo knot. We do have a t-shirt. I do have a little video I'm going to segment here in a second where you'll see me modeling this t-shirt, which is the logo, which is not official. So when we do get the official logo, we will then have a cancellation of this t-shirt. So it'll be a classic owned by those true fans and everything. But other than that, we're going to head over after this video and do issue 9 of Commandy, Last Boy on Earth, Jack Kirby, great post-apocalyptic, quasi-romantic comic book where we do a dive through historically about that creative process that he took in order to create that. You got anything else, Jake?
No, tune into Commandy. It's going so fast. It's going to be over pretty quickly. So
Yeah, we're
yeah,
almost halfway through because we're doing 20 issues.
right. Good. All right. So
All
yeah,
right,
we'll see you the next time, and
awesome.
I'll show you. I have these sketches I've been doing. This is a concert poster. I'll show you them
Nice.
a little more fleshed out next time. These are really
Oh, cool.
just
Cool.
roughs. Yeah, and
Awesome.
yeah, we'll get into that some other time.
Awesome. I'll have some stuff to show and tell as well off of Turbo Topic.
Cool, dude.
All right, I'll see you in a little bit.
Let's skate. All right, bye everybody. See you next time, and just check out the episodes. You check out our binge link where you just go one after the other, and you don't have to see all the promo videos, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So cool. All right, later.
Peace.